There is a sound that defines a culture. I mean, way before a single word is ever spoken.
Hmm.
It's that rhythmic, almost aggressive thwack of a cleaver on a block.
Or the sizzle of onions hitting hot oil.
Exactly, and that heavy metallic clank of a pot lid.
In Indian cooking, there's a word for let's call it the intuition behind those sounds, right?
Fondadas.
Andas. It translates roughly to estimation, but it's more than that.
It's more beautiful than that, yeah. It's intuition.
It is. I mean, if you ask your grandmother how much salt to use, she will never, ever say 1 teaspoon.
Never. She'll say, just put enough. She's measuring with her eyes, with her fingers, with, I don't know, some kind of ancestral memory.
But that's the conflict we're unpacking today. You can't write andas down.
No, you can't put it in a Google Doc. You can't sell it in a meal kit.
And so we are probably the first generation of cooks who are really relying on measuring cups instead of that intuition.
We're the 30-minute meal generation, the
Right.
pre-bottled sauce generation.
Hmm.
And every single time we take one of those shortcuts,
A specific 500-year-old flavor profile, it fades.
it fades a little bit more into the background.
So today we're diving deep into that, into
Yeah.
the cultural and psychological cost of modifying these traditional recipes. We're looking at assimilation,
Yeah.
gentrification,
And the recipes we're absolutely terrified of losing.
and the question at the heart of our source material is this. When we modify a recipe to fit in, are we evolving?
Or are we just erasing ourselves?
It's fascinating because food, which should be the most comforting thing in our lives, has become this high-tension political battlefield.
We're watching the memory of food just erode in real time.
And that erosion, it often doesn't start with the cook. It starts with the market,
The gentrification of flavor.
which we've seen in the research as the turmeric latte effect.
Right. This is the journey of, peasant food. The cheap, historically necessary, often very pungent stuff.
In its transition from something of, frankly, shame.
To something being sold as an expensive appetizer in a trendy cafe. I mean, I remember growing up, and I know so many people listening have had this exact same experience, where you were made fun of for eating something smelly.
Oh, yeah. The weird lunchbox.
A weird lunchbox. Maybe it was fermented kimchi or bone broth or even just, the smell of turmeric milk on the stove. That memory of shame. It's so potent.
It is.
Yeah.
That feeling of having to hide your food or apologize for it, it conditions you. It makes you believe that your culture's food is somehow inferior.
Embarrassing.
Yeah. But then, and this is where it gets really infuriating.
Right.
Today, you can walk into any upscale cafe in London or San Francisco, and that exact item, that bone broth, that kimchi, that turmeric milk,
Is being sold as a superfood or a wellness elixir.
for $18, often by someone with absolutely no cultural connection to it.
And the mechanism here is it's so complex. It's not just appropriation.
No, it's a commercial decoupling. The food's value is only recognized once it's completely stripped of its original cultural context.
And then rebranded for a high-end consumer.
And for someone from that culture, the feeling is this weird mix of validation and just anger.
The validation hits you first. It's like, see, I told you it was good. This has always been good for you.
But the anger is so justified. Why was it gross when I ate it? But now it's cool and premium when you sell it.
And the sources are clear on this. The moment the dominant culture says it's acceptable, its profitability just skyrockets.
And that profit almost never cycles back to the communities who carried that recipe for centuries.
It's this validated anger that creates a profound psychological wedge. The initial shame did its damage, but now the pride feels
Tainted. Because the original flavor that Ondesida was, it's usually been toned down for palatability anyway.
Which is the perfect lead-in to our second point. That moment, the shame turns into self-modification.
The whitewash dinner party.
This is what the research calls betraying your palate to please guests. The assimilation isn't forced on you anymore.
You're choosing it to preempt judgment.
Scraped chilies. This is the perfect example. So you're inviting work colleagues over, or maybe a new partner. Right. And you have this incredible family recipe passed down for generations. But then you start making these calculations in your head.
You start changing the dish. You decide, okay, I'll remove the chilies, or I'll use less garlic.
Or substitute that really pungent fermented sauce for something milder.
Yeah.
You're making the safe version.
Diluting your own culture so your guests find it safely exotic.
And the analysis of the guilt here is so critical. You watch your guests praise the food. Wow, this is so complex.
And deep down you're thinking, this tastes like nothing. I have served you a lie.
That calculation, the act of scrubbing the flavor clean to fit in, it's a huge psychological tax.
You're constantly having to make yourself, and by extension your culture, palatable.
They're code switching in the kitchen.
And you're sacrificing the very heart of the recipe. That andele as we started with. The tradition doesn't say scrape the chilies out.
No, it says put enough heat so your forehead sweats a little, because that's the right amount. When you ignore that, the flavor isn't evolving.
It's just weakening under pressure. It's an exhausting act of self-censorship.
Okay, so let's move from those external pressures to something that happens right inside the home. This clash between scarcity and modern abundance.
The immigrant fridge Tetris.
Yes. This is that high-tension collision between generations, the modern desire for aesthetics.
Clashing directly with a history of survival.
It is perfectly defined by the butter container trap.
Oh, anyone from an immigrant household knows this one.
That moment of, like, mild, repetitive disappointment. You open a country crock tub or a Danish cookie tin expecting one thing.
And you find leftover lentils, or sewing supplies, or frozen fish.
So what's the psychology there?
It's a fundamental principle born from scarcity. You
Yeah.
never, ever throw away a good container,
Yeah.
and you never waste food.
Every single item has to serve a long-term functional purpose.
Right. But the conflict starts when the younger generation, who are maybe seeing all this organization porn on social media,
The TikTok aesthetic. The clear, matching Tupperware.
they try to impose that order. And it's not just about clutter. It's a deep clash of values.
The younger generation is striving for aesthetics and control.
While the older generation is just responding from a lens of, like, functional preparedness, they don't see a messy fridge. They see repurposed resources.
So even when the actual scarcity is over, the psychological impact of it is still visible right there in the kitchen.
That container is a symbol. It's a symbol of never letting a resource go to waste.
It's commendable, but this is where it gets a bit heartbreaking. Even if you have the perfect kitchen and you follow the recipe exactly, sometimes the taste is just lost.
The lost taste is,
And moist.
yeah, it's unavoidable.
It's this painful realization that some flavors, they just can't travel with you.
Think about the tomato that tastes like water.
Ugh, yes. So you're living in the UK or Canada, somewhere far from home. Maybe you grew up in India or Italy.
And you desperately try to recreate that one summer salad or that sauce. You buy the best organic heirloom ingredients you can find.
But it's just wrong. It's flat. It's missing that sharp, sun-drenched sweetness. And the research points to one single reason for this.
Terroir.
Can you explain that?
Sure. Terroir is a French concept, mostly from winemaking, but it applies to everything. It's the complete environment, the soil, the climate, the altitude, the rainfall.
The specific mineral composition of the ground.
Exactly. So if the volcanic soil of Naples is what gives a San Marzano tomato its unique taste, you just can't recreate that in the clay soil of Michigan. It's chemically impossible.
You can transport the person.
But you cannot transport the terroir.
Yeah.
And that realization is one of the heaviest forms of cultural loss.
So you'll never truly taste home again unless you're physically there.
It just shows how fragile food memory is when you remove it from its source. You can save the recipe, but you can't save the sun.
So if the written recipe fails us because it doesn't have andaz, and the global supply chain fails us because it doesn't have terroir, how do we preserve the memory?
We have to shift away from the logical brain, back towards sensory memory.
Okay, so we want to try a quick exercise with you right now. We're calling it the Blind Recipe Challenge.
And the goal is to access that deep sensory intuition, that enderes, to force you to ignore the measuring cups.
The rule is simple. Describe right now how to make your favorite comfort food, but you can't use any units of measurement.
No minutes, no cups, no grams, no degrees. You have to use what we're calling grandma language.
So instead of saying fry the onions for 5 minutes, you describe the sensory result.
You'd say, fry the onions until they look pink and soft like a sunset.
Or if a recipe calls for liquid, you don't say add 1 cup of water.
That's meaningless to intuition. You'd say, add water until it covers the knuckles of the chicken when you press it down. It's a measure of depths of feeling.
And you forget exact temperatures. You don't say bake at 350.
No. You rely on the most potent sense you have. You say, cook it until the smell fills the hallway and makes the neighbors curious.
That scent becomes your timer. It's your thermometer. It's your proof of doneness.
It forces you to rely on that deep, intuitive memory, the memory that survives immigration, that resists standardization.
And that really is the profound takeaway from all this. Food is the most stubborn form of memory we have.
You can forget a language, you can forget a face.
But you cannot forget the precise taste of your mother's cooking.
But as we've seen, that taste is so fragile, it fades with every shortcut, every modification.
And every mile you move away from that original soil.
So if you're listening and your parents or elders are still with you, our challenge to you is urgent. Go to the kitchen.
And don't just write down the recipe.
No. Video record their hands, capture the andiraz, record the way they chop, the way they stir, the exact moment they decide that's enough salt.
Capture the instinct, because one day that visual record, that sensory guide,
It will be the most valuable thing you own. It's the secret ingredient you can't measure.
We spent this whole time talking about the struggle of leaving home and trying to return to it through food. But what happens when the global world just comes uninvited into your home?
Forcing a rapid, maybe even destructive evolution.
Imagine a remote village. It's lived by the same rhythm for 500 years. Farming cycles, local knowledge.
And then you introduce a powerful external force.
You put a 5G tower right in the middle of that village.
And suddenly, a 14-year-old girl in that mountain town isn't looking to her elders for role models.
She's looking at a Kardashian, a YouTuber in Los Angeles.
Walls of our local cultures are just crumbling. At the speed of light, the internet is flattening everything. Not just our recipes, but our aspirations, our identities.
And next week, we're going to ask a question that I think is terrifying, and it affects every corner of the globe.
Is the smartphone killing the village?